right there. And it's often confused with this butterfly, very common in Geauga County. This is called a viceroy. And the main difference here is the monarch butterfly. The viceroy has this black band on the hind wing that distinguishes it, makes it look different than the monarch butterfly. It's also a little bit smaller, but some people will say that viceroy looks the color of the monarch because that color tells predators, hey, if you eat me, you're going to get sick. So it's distasteful or can be toxic to birds and other predators that eat them. So monarchs, viceroys mimic the monarch for that reason, that's what they say. But here's the male versus the female. The main difference is the males have these things. We like to tell kids that these are their daddy dots right here. These are what they call alar glands. A female does not have those. So if you ever find one, the male have these alar glands. And
daddy dots is easier.
Daddy dots, yeah, alar glands, daddy dots. So. But the adults really need, and the park provides, a diversity of habitats here. If we just had all forest or all wetlands and whatnot, we wouldn't have the correct habitat for monarch butterflies. The adults need fields full of wide variety of wildflowers, and our parks do provide a lot of good sources, nectaring sources for adults. The adults feed with a long mouth part called a proboscis. It's like a straw, and it unfurls. They stick that proboscis in the plant to get to the nectar. And they in turn help to pollinate those plants as well. But the juveniles, the caterpillars, they completely depend on milkweed plants. Swamp milkweed, which grows primarily in wetlands and along ponds and lakes, and then common milkweed. If we do not have this plant, we do not have monarch butterflies. Bottom line, we need to have these plants in our parks, and we'll tell you what we do to help these things grow in our parks. But critically important, so the female will lay her eggs on these plants, then the young will eat them, and that's how they depend on this. They can't just eat any kind of leaf. They have to have a variety of milkweed. So they go through what we call a complete metamorphosis from an egg to a larva, which is the caterpillar, then the pupa, which is the chrysalis. Butterflies make chrysalises. A lot of times even adults will say, oh, butterflies make cocoons. So they actually will show you how they form that chrysalis. They don't actually make it, it's just part of them. We'll show you a cool video here that Linda Gilbert, one of our naturalists, did with a microscopic camera to watch an egg hatching out. And then it'll also be, it's just a short little video. It'll also show a chrysalis being formed as well as a couple monarchs hatching out. So it's just a few minute little video. Whoop. That won't work, okay. No. This is also one of our volunteers, Sonny Williams, also contributed to this video. I'll kind of talk through it as it goes. So here's the tiny little egg. It's laid on the bottom edge of the monarch leaf. Check out, this is a little caterpillar filmed by Linda hatching out of the egg. And it's tiny, about the size of the lead on the edge of the pencil. It's green with a black head. It's wiggling out there. It spends about 3 to 5 days as an egg. Depending on temperatures, if it's hotter, it's going to develop quicker. It's going to hatch out quicker. But typically, 3 to 5 days. And the first thing it's going to do, it's going to go over to that egg and get some nutrients from that egg. First thing it does is eat the egg case. So this is the little caterpillar eating the egg case. And then so in just 2 weeks, the little caterpillar it's a leaf-eating machine. It eats the milkweed like amazingly fast. It goes from the size of about the head of a pin to about the size of my pinky, a little bit smaller, in just 2 weeks. If a human baby grew that fast, it would be the size of a school bus in 2 weeks. But I don't know, it happened so quick. Basically what happens is, once it gets to be about full size, after about 2 weeks, it crawls off the milkweed plant, then it'll crawl up another plant nearby, and its skin splits open. Watch the one on the left, it's starting to shake. Its skin splits open, and underneath the skin is the chrysalis. So they don't make it, they just shed their skin, and there's the chrysalis. So it'll spend 2 weeks approximately in that chrysalis. Scientists call this the greenhouse with the golden nails that has these little yellow dots on it. One scientist did an experiment and scraped off a little bit of those golden dots and found that that was what produced the color. When the monarch hatched out, it didn't have the color. So here's a monarch hatching out now. After 2 weeks, the chrysalis will turn from green to like clear, where you can start to see the black and orange. The butterfly is like a chubby monster. Its wings are all, crumpled up, I guess. Its abdomen's really thick, full of fluid. And at this point, it's really critical for the butterfly that it doesn't fall off or it's not disturbed at this point, because its wings are unfurling, they're really wet. It'll spend a couple hours like this drying off, and then it'll be ready to fly. All right, so that's just a general life cycle of the monarch butterfly. Now, monarch butterflies throughout the summertime, their typical lifespan, they'll go, it takes them about a month to go from that egg to an adult. Once they become adult, they're only going to live maybe a month or so. When most insects become adult, their main function is reproduction. So they're going to reproduce, the females will lay eggs on milkweed plants, and then they will die. But the end of the summer generation, starting in August, late August into September, this generation, when the days get shorter, the nights get cooler, then the urge to reproduce kind of gets shut down, and the urge to migrate kicks in. So the last generation of the summer is the migratory generation, and this generation can live 6, 7, 8 or so months, because they are the generation that migrates down to Mexico. And we discovered this, scientists discovered this, all by tagging. You can see I have some examples of the tags here. I'll tag a little fake monarch. Unfortunately, the monarchs are all gone by now. We've just finished. Most of our monarchs that we tagged here this year, or that were in Ohio, are on their way to Mexico. By the time November hits, usually all the monarchs east of the Rocky Mountains will migrate down to the mountains in central Mexico. There is a year-round population in southern Florida, but the vast majority of all monarchs from Canada, all east of the Rocky Mountains, head to Mexico. West of the Rocky Mountains, they head to California, to the coast of California. So over there in Mexico, basically in the mountains, it's sort of like, I liken it to like being in a refrigerator. It's not freezing. They could not tolerate Geauga County winters. So they have just instinctively learned that they go down south to this giant forested refrigerator to overwinter. And we're talking millions and millions of butterflies. All the butterflies east of the Rocky Mountains are going to this spot in Mexico. So this is just some clips of what it looks like down there in Mexico. The branches are just covered. This is an aerial view. I mean, those are evergreen trees and just absolutely covered with the butterflies. So some threats that they have, monarch butterflies, like I said, because they migrate such thousands of miles, they face a lot of hazards along the way and on their overwintering grounds. One is if it happens to, temperature tends to drop really rapidly, you could have a massive die-off. Every now and then you may hear of that. So nothing really that people can do about that, really. The weather is the weather, but that can really impact the butterfly's population. But also, if that area is logged, if we take away, if the Mexican people were to just take away all that habitat down there, then the monarchs absolutely won't survive too. So protecting the habitat down there for the monarch butterfly is critically important. So if they survive the winter, they're not, they make it through the winter, this generation, what they will do is they'll start migrating back up to the United States in the early spring. They'll make it down into the southern United States like Texas area, and once they see milkweed emerging, they say, I'm done migrating, I'm going to breed and lay eggs. So, and then they die. And then their young go through a month-long metamorphosis